When the North Sea oil platform exploded in a deafening roar, the sea turned black with oil and the sky filled with flames, and every soul watching believed that the men on board were gone forever. Yet 3 days later, divers uncovered something that defied every rule of physics, a single human heartbeat echoing from a tiny pocket of air at 700 meters beneath the surface. The disaster struck on a cold March night. Faulty gas line ignited, sending a fireball through the central deck, shattering steel and sending workers plunging into the churning water. Helicopters circled, rescue vessels raced toward the wreckage, and the world held its breath as the ocean swallowed the twisted metal. News anchors shouted that there were no survivors, that the depth was too great for anyone to live. The belief was absolute. A man could not survive the crushing pressure, the freezing cold, the complete darkness of the deep. But somewhere inside the wreck, a survivor was waking up. He opened his eyes to a dim green glow from his own headlamp, the sound of metal groaning under the weight of the water. His ears rang, his lungs burned, and for a moment he could not tell if he was still dreaming. He realized he was trapped inside a collapsed section of the platform, a hollow cavity that somehow held a bubble of air. The metal around him was bent like a clenched fist, sealing a small volume that had kept the water out. He was alone, surrounded by an ocean that pressed in on every side with a force that would crush a car on the surface. The pressure at 700 meters is about 70 atmospheres, a force that feels like 1,000 pounds per square inch on every inch of your body. The human body, made mostly of water, can handle that weight, but the lungs and any trapped air are not so forgiving. When he tried to move, his muscles felt as though they were pushing against a solid wall. Each breath was a battle, because the breath he took was drawn from a pocket of air that had been compressed to a fraction of its original size. The bubble held enough oxygen for only a few hours, yet his body began to shut down its metabolism, entering a state that scientists compare to a deep dive reflex. His heart slowed, his blood flow redirected to vital organs, and the cold water, barely above 30 degrees Fahrenheit, triggered a physiological response that preserved precious oxygen. Why he could not simply swim to the surface was simple. The water's density and the immense pressure would have made any movement feel like lifting a massive weight, draining his energy in seconds. Even if he could break free of the metal, a rapid ascent would have caused nitrogen bubbles to form in his bloodstream, a condition known as decompression sickness or the bends, which can be fatal. The only chance of survival lay in staying put, conserving every breath, and hoping for a rescue that seemed impossible. As minutes turned into hours, his mind slipped into a strange limbo. The darkness was absolute. There was no sense of day or night. The only sound was the faint creaking of steel and his own breath echoing in the confined space. The human brain, deprived of light and external stimuli, begins to generate its own images, hallucinatory flashes of familiar faces, of open skies, of the surface. Time stretched, each second feeling like an eternity, while his body fought a silent battle against hypothermia and oxygen depletion. He counted his breaths, each one a reminder that the clock was ticking, and tried to keep his thoughts focused, refusing to let panic take over. Scientists call this a diver's paradox. The very conditions that should have killed him, extreme pressure, near freezing water, total isolation, also triggered protective mechanisms. The cold induced a diving reflex that slowed his heart rate to as low as 30 beats per minute, reducing oxygen consumption dramatically. His body also released adrenaline, which paradoxically helped preserve mental clarity for a short time. In that fragile balance, his brain entered a state of hyper-awareness, cataloging every sound, every shift in metal, every fleeting glimmer of light from his own lamp. Imagine being surrounded by a wall of water so thick it feels like concrete, with only a thin layer of air clinging to you like a fragile soap bubble. Every inhalation pulls from a diminishing reserve. Every exhalation fills the cavity with carbon dioxide that could turn poisonous in minutes. Yet his body, trained by a survival instinct, began to prioritize oxygen for the brain while allowing muscles to go into a near-frozen state. It is a delicate dance that most of us would never survive without a suit. At this point, the rescue teams were still scouring the ocean floor, convinced they would only find twisted metal and lifeless bodies. Their sonar scans showed a tangled mess of steel, and the darkness made visual confirmation nearly impossible. Still, a faint signal appeared on a hydrophone, an irregular pulse that did not match any mechanical noise. Divers lowered themselves into the abyss, feeling the weight of the water crush their suits, their helmets glinting like tiny lanterns against the black. They expected to retrieve the remains of the crew, but as they approached a collapsed section, something moved. A hand, pale and trembling, reached out from a narrow crevice, brushing the visor of a diver's mask. What do you think about this impossible survival? Let me know in the comments. I really want to hear your thoughts. If this story is blowing your mind, hit that subscribe button and let's keep exploring together. He managed to keep his headlamp dim, conserving every last spark of light, while the world above him seemed to melt into an endless night. The divers who found him were stunned, their faces reflected in the visor of their helmets, eyes wide as they realized they were looking at a living man, not a corpse. The moment the hand brushed the glass, a surge of adrenaline coursed through the rescue team, a shared pulse that echoed the survivor's own faint heartbeat. The lead diver, a veteran of countless deep-sea missions, whispered into his comms that they had a live subject, and the transmission crackled through the surface vessels like a lifeline thrown across the abyss. Back on the deck, the medical crew prepared a hyperbaric chamber, a steel cocoon designed to gently ease the pressure off a body that had spent days under a crushing weight of water. They knew that a rapid ascent could be fatal. Nitrogen bubbles could form in his bloodstream, leading to what doctors call the bends, a painful and often deadly condition. Instead, they planned a slow, controlled decompression, lowering the pressure in the chamber by tiny increments over the course of several hours. Every second mattered, but haste would be just as dangerous as the darkness that had held him captive. The survivor, whose name the world would later learn as Michael, lay still on the stretcher, his eyes barely open, his breath shallow. The divers had managed to extract him from the narrow cavity, cutting away twisted steel with a hydraulic saw, coaxing the air pocket open just enough for their hands to reach in. The water that rushed in was frigid, each droplet a reminder of the cold that had seeped into his bones. Yet his body seemed to have entered a state of suspended animation, a natural response to the extreme environment. The diving reflex, triggered by the cold water, had slowed his heart rate dramatically, conserving oxygen and buying him precious minutes that might otherwise have been lost. In the hyperbaric chamber, technicians monitored his vitals with a quiet intensity. The monitors displayed faint lines that rose and fell with each breath, a visual representation of a life that had teetered on the edge of oblivion. The chamber's pressure was gradually reduced, mimicking the ascent from the depths in a controlled manner. As the pressure eased, Michael's heart began to beat a little faster, his skin flushed with a faint pink that hinted at returning circulation. The medical team administered supplemental oxygen, ensuring that his brain received the fuel it needed to emerge from the fog of hypoxia. Scientists later studied his blood samples, looking for clues about how a human could endure such extreme conditions. They found elevated levels of a protein known as hypoxia-inducible factor, a molecule that helps cells adapt to low oxygen environments. This protein essentially told his cells to switch to a more efficient mode of metabolism, preserving energy and reducing the damage that would normally occur when oxygen's scarce. Additionally, his blood showed a higher concentration of certain antioxidants, substances that protect cells from the oxidative stress that can arise during reoxygenation. These findings sparked a flurry of research as doctors and biologists wondered whether the mechanisms that saved Michael could be harnessed to improve treatment for patients suffering from cardiac arrest, severe blood loss, or other situations where oxygen deprivation is a threat. While the scientific community dissected the miracle, the emotional impact of the rescue rippled across the globe. News anchors replayed the footage of the hand reaching out from the darkness, their voices trembling as they described the scene. Families of the missing crew members, who had mourned their loved ones for days, were given a glimmer of hope that perhaps not everyone had been lost. Social media lit up with messages of awe and gratitude, hashtags rising like waves, each post a testament to the human spirit's resilience. People shared their own stories of survival, of moments when they felt the weight of the world pressing down, finding comfort in the knowledge that even in the deepest darkness, a spark can survive. For Michael, the ordeal left lasting scars, both physical and psychological. He would later recount waking up to a world that smelled of metal and brine, the sound of his own breathing echoing in a confined space, the feeling of time stretching into an endless void. The memory of the cold, the pressure, the isolation lingered like an echo in his mind. He described moments when his thoughts drifted to his family, to the life he had left behind, and to the simple pleasure of feeling sunlight on his face. Rehabilitation sessions became a daily ritual, each step forward a reminder of how fragile life can be and how powerful the will to live truly is. The rescue operation itself became a case study in marine emergency response. Naval engineers reviewed the design of offshore platforms, questioning whether structural redundancies could be improved to prevent such catastrophic failures. The divers who descended into the abyss shared their experiences in training seminars, emphasizing the importance of mental preparation, teamwork, and the need for equipment that can withstand the immense forces of the deep sea. Their stories inspired a new generation of underwater explorers who saw in Michael's survival a blueprint for courage and ingenuity. As the narrative of this impossible survival unfolded, it forced us to confront the thin line that separates life from death. It reminded us that the ocean, with its boundless depths, can be both a graveyard and a sanctuary, depending on the circumstances that unfold within its grasp. It challenged our assumptions about what the human body can endure, pushing the envelope of medical knowledge and engineering. And perhaps most importantly, it showed that hope can surface even when the odds seem insurmountable. If you've ever felt a shiver of fear when thinking about the unknown, or if this tale sparked a flicker of wonder about the limits of human endurance, share your thoughts below. What part of Michael's journey resonated with you the most? Did you find the science behind his survival as fascinating as the drama of the rescue? Your comments help shape the conversation and let us know which stories push the boundaries of what we think is possible. And as we wrap up this extraordinary account, remember that there are countless untold stories hidden beneath the waves, waiting for a voice to bring them to the surface. If you want to keep exploring the edge of reality with us, give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing so you won't miss the next deep dive into the world's most baffling mysteries. The ocean holds many secrets, and together we'll keep uncovering them, one astonishing tale at a time. And yet, as the waves settle and the sun climbs high over the horizon, the memory of that silent, pressure-crushed chamber lingers like a faint echo in every sailor's mind. The rescue team still gathers around their tables, replaying sonar scans, debating every split-second decision that turned a tragedy into a miracle. Their stories remind us that preparation, courage, and a little bit of luck can rewrite what we once thought impossible. What does this tale teach us about our own limits? Do you feel that a spark of determination awakens when you hear of someone surviving against every odds? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm eager to hear how this story resonates with you. If this journey into the abyss moved you, let a like ripple through the channel. And if you crave more hidden narratives from the deep, tap that subscribe button and ring the bell so you won't miss the next plunge into the unknown. Together we'll keep chasing the currents of wonder, one extraordinary story at a time.